That's right.
I really like peanut butter. That'll do it. You're learning quick, man. My family does. They don't want to sit by me more than once, so there's nothing. Huh? Well, I told them one time, just they put me on the other side of the lane, and I sound like we stand up and I can't see nothing. Except right about his belt. So I asked for that move. It is.
Was this
Whatever.
Yeah, I'm running.
It's pretty disgusting.
I really don't.
It's on my list.
You know, like experience. So, you're wrong. I guess I never eat it. You know, in my life.
Really?
I go back here. Had a shot.
And I love all that stuff, man.
But I mean, I like it. Maybe gummy worm. The guy goes, well, talk to my wife. I said, well,
Yeah, I like all this. I like I'm not really a salty.
School District RE1 special meeting to order. We could please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Okay, do I hear a motion to accept the agenda?
I make a motion that we set the agenda.
I second.
Have any discussion, changes? No? Deborah?
Who made our?
Motion by Sherry, seconded by Jim.
Frazier,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Hart, Joyce,
Aye.
Rice,
Aye.
Wells,
Aye.
Wright.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, moving to discussion items. For a legislative report, Sherry, if you want to.
I have a list. And believe me, I'm kind of haphazard right now, but I'm trying. There's a House Bill 1064. And they're trying to get it passed. It's flavored tobacco, to get it banned. So, but right now the votes aren't in. House Bill 1110 is the Board of Education's executive session. It's passed out of the House with its third reading. It is something that is very interesting. I've copied it here if anybody wants to read it, but basically what it says is that we can go into executive session to discuss our CEO, which they said called the CEO instead of the superintendent, to discuss protocol. Like we can't go into executive session now and talk about what's going on. But if this passes, then we will be able to go into executive session, discuss it, and come out and vote and what needs to do. So it's releasing some of our hands on it. I think it's good. I wish it would have been done 2 weeks ago. House Bill 2211 is para, and it is to allow retired teachers in rural areas to teach up to 140 days. So it looks like that's going to pass. House Bill 221131, reduce justice involvement for young children. It's saying that kids from the ages of 10 to 13 will not go into the court system unless it's a serious crime like homicide, sexual misconduct, something like that. House Bill 22-127 is special ed funding. It's passed in the Senate. Senate Ed, let's be sure I say that. And it's waiting for Senate appropriations. And they're talking about maybe 250 to 275 million, and buy down the BS factor with it, with part of it. They're looking at House Bill 1220 for different measures for people to become educators. There is a fiscal note on it because of student teaching and different things like that. So they're not sure how that's going to work, but it could go up to $23 million. House Bill 1252 is where they align school districts with the layman contracts. So it'll be changing somewhat, but I think we already do that, don't we?
As far as, I'm not.
Our
sure.
contract, we go through the same, we'll go through the same processes as everybody else.
Yes. Yeah.
And we already do that,
Right.
so. House Bill 1243 is school security and school behaviors. It's health service funding. And they're saying that instead of giving us grants, just give us the money and don't make us apply. If you've got the money, then put it out there instead of making it go for grants, because rural districts don't have the ability to do the grants. House Bill 1240, mandatory reports. We already do this, 24 hours required to report anything that's going on. And we do not investigate. This is stuff I knew back when I taught 20 years ago. We do not investigate, and we just let the court system and the Social Security do what they do. And I didn't really understand this one, and I need to read it. And I've got study underlined on it. It's Senate Bill 22-137. It says it's transitioning back to standard K-12 accountability. And I'm not really sure what, and I have not, my life's been a little crooked in here the last few days, and I have not had time to go in and look at it. Graduation guidelines for districts. CDE is making mandatory things that are not required by law. And the Ed Data Advisory Committee is fighting it over. This is something that Mr. Chandler touched on during our retreat on the kids have to make a certain score and different things. They have to, if we don't make them jump through the boxes, and they want more information than what we and they're saying, no, the state cannot deny somebody to graduate. It's the district's job. And so that is being fought very heavily. Let's see.
By what do you mean?
I mean,
To
that
not
they're saying
pass.
that they're fighting CDE and saying you're overstepping your bounds, and we'll take you to court if you don't step back off. And we will probably at some point be receiving a resolution to support that. I don't have it yet, so, but we probably will at some time. And if you want to know about it, I've got the letter that they have written to CDE here. So it's here for you to read if you would like to. I think that's it.
Okay. All right. Anybody have any questions on any of those? Okay, discussion item 4B, donation of flag. I'm wondering if this is something I need to speak on, or if Deborah, do you want to talk about how that came about?
We just had a lady call into the school district and asked me to come out to her car, and she gave me a flag. I think it's like a 6x8, it's a larger flag. And she didn't want to leave her name or anything. So
She was just donating the flag to us.
just wanted to donate it to the school district for our use because she didn't have a use for it anymore.
No history behind it or anything? Okay. Okay. All right.
Well, I think that was awesome.
Yeah.
And,
Yes.
and I know that we took it down because we had not discussed the donation, but I think it needs to go back up. Because if somebody's willing to give us something like that, we need to honor that. We need to honor them.
Okay.
I think the concern was like possibly political affiliation or something like that, but it's I would say it has no ties to any group, local or otherwise.
I don't see how it does. It's the American flag.
Mhm,
It's not the Confederate flag. It's, I mean,
mhm.
it's the American flag. It's what we stand under.
Yep.
I don't associate it with a political group. I associate it with my son being in Iraq 3 times and being shot at.
Would agree.
I agree with
I
that.
think flag etiquette wise is if we do put it up on the wall, we might have to do something to match the Colorado flag to it. I don't think we can have one on a pole and one on the wall, but I'd have to check what flag etiquette.
Yeah, that
says.
would, I would recommend that we do that.
Okay, I'll look into that.
So
No,
are
I-
we just gonna move that to an action item for our?
We can't,
To our next meeting?
yeah.
Okay.
And I do realize that that right there, because of our links and stuff, it's not. So we could put it this way, so it's not as so visual on YouTube.
Okay.
I
Well, or
don't
we
know.
can come up with some creative ideas too.
Yeah,
Once we find out all the,
we need more, yeah.
Okay,
So if you can find out the etiquette,
I'll look into that.
thank you.
Okay. Okay, hot topic. No, C, 4-day calendar for 22-23. So we should have had some time to come up with some.
I still am concerned about the PDs. I will tell you right now, I've had several people reach out to me, educators. I asked questions at the last meeting on how they were designed and who designed them. I don't know. I'm still confused. I don't know that, do we really truly need a half a day, twice a month? When, I mean, if we're doing a 4-day week to give our teachers a break, what's a 4-day? It's a 4-day week, not a,
Well, I think, so obviously this is not like something that we just randomly decided on.
okay,
We had some input from our administrators. The reality is that, and a point that's been made in our meetings, we are cutting back on our school days.
yes, we are.
We are significantly cutting back on our school days. And 147 is a place that we have never been before. I mean, we've never willingly gone to that level. I mean, we had years ago where we did have, and maybe that's an overstatement, but we did have a calendar back then, but it wasn't nearly as considerate, I don't think, of the things that we need to be aware of now. And so the point being is we cut back on the days that we are here. Now we need to really focus on taking care of the kids
Mhm.
academically.
I agree.
And how do we do that? Well, with the calendars and the schedules going to be as tight as they are, teachers are not going to have as much time during the day on a regular daily basis. It's going to vary from building to building because it always has, but we need to have the opportunity to look at our student data so that we can make adjustments in instruction in real time, not just once a month, which while yes, that makes certain sense as far as are we doing a 4-day or not, but to have 2 half days, that gives us updated data for adjustment of instruction twice a month. And something that while, some things may change as far as procedurally and just how we do things in the district over time. But one thing that we really need to focus on and be committed to, in my opinion, this is my opinion, is being committed to the data that we're collecting and using it to help our students move along. And if we can't do that in the scope of a traditional day because we've eliminated our early release day, we've taken another day out of the calendar, then we have to find the time for that. And even though it's, it's extra time or it looks like extra time, it's something that I think is a vital practice that we need to continue. We have spent a lot of time trying to cultivate this. We've done some other things, we created our own in-house assessments, we did some things like that. And while those things may come and go, the data is always going to be something that we need to collect and look at in order to improve practice so that we get the best in front of our kids. And it was the feeling of certain members of the administrative team, along with our principals, to say, hey, you know, one day probably doesn't do it. But if we could do it in 2 half days in a month, that's probably enough time to get in, look at our data, have teachers start to readjust instruction so that we can meet the needs of our kids. And that's just a process that I don't think that we can give up on.
Okay.
And
You did a good job defending it. That's
Okay.
when I asked it the other day, you weren't doing so good.
Right.
But that being said, if you've got the data, why don't we get to see it? I mean, we haven't seen any data this year.
Right, well,
And I'm concerned because I know it's out there because during our retreat, some elementary teachers and secondary brought in some data.
Right.
I would think that we need to see some.
well, and we haven't had like great cohesive data for the district as a whole. Because of how CMAS went last year, it was diced up between the grades. Not everybody tested the same test. So we haven't had that. We've had some of our interim data, but it's been spotty because we're looking at different program concerns and things are changing around there. So our priorities haven't been exactly to keep that as alive as other things.
You do realize our job is to make sure kids are learning and that we need to have data.
Well, no, and I totally understand that. And that's why we're actually having a conversation about bringing in like a NWEA maps testing so that we have district-wide data so that.
I like
we-
NWEA, by the way.
Why? So that we all have the same picture. You know, right now it's kind of diced up and different schools are using different things. So they have their own metrics that they're using, but at the same time, you know, it doesn't give us a whole picture of the district. So like we would have a hard time with cohesive information like we have at IPP.
So we don't know how much students lost from the end of school last year to the beginning of school this year.
Well, we could mine that out. I could go school by school and we could get that data from each school and they could give us that information. But in like the traditional sense that we've had historically, we don't have like a snapshot picture.
When you're doing this, please remember that I like longevity. I like to compare a student in first grade, then he's doing this in second grade. And then, you know, maybe in fifth grade, he's jumping or he's dropping.
Well, exactly.
So
And that's-
I like the longevity of data.
Right.
And
No,
not just the snapshot, but the longevity.
well,
of it.
no, and that's exactly what we need. I mean, we don't have a system for looking K-12. And that's been for a number of years.
Yes, it
now.
has
We haven't- And I think we're doing ourselves a disservice by not having that. So it's something that, you know, we are looking at vendors, we're talking with different groups, whether it's Renaissance or NWEA, there may be other products out there. You know, but we're looking into those because collectively, we've had these discussions with the administrative team and everybody is on board, like, yeah, we need this. And you know, we're not trying to hold back and keep it from them. So it's
Okay.
time that we get that back in.
And I really transitioned that the wrong way. I mean, I went from school calendar to this, so I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. I mean, it's not far fetched because it's about the data and that's, you know, we have to, that is, you know, if we've lost anything over the last year, the one thing that I would love for us to continue with is being diligent with our data.
Yeah.
And that's just not something I think is negotiable. So
And
Yeah.
keeping with these half days would help with that, correct?
immensely, because principals would be scheduling data team meetings on those Friday mornings or whatever it is we decide those are. And, you know, there's a very, I won't say definite script for that, how that looks, but we have a playbook for data team meetings and what that looks like. And teachers having the opportunity to get together and talk about that in PLC format so they can all start learning and using best practices about how to move kids along.
Do you have a time frame that you think, you know, because I know you're looking at different options and everything. When do you think you'll be able to start presenting that data? Just loose time frame.
Well, I mean, are you talking for like next year or?
Is it something that we're not going to even really be seeing until next year?
No, I mean, so in the next month or so, what we're gonna see is, everybody will have UIP reports. That will have data within the UIP reports that we can, share with you guys and you guys
Yeah.
can see.
They'll present the UIPs.
Yeah.
So it will have something
Yeah.
in a month or two.
Yeah, we'll have for this year, but in the form that I would like to see, and I think you would like to see, we're looking at when we start employing a new vendor for assessment.
And I like pictures. Graphs are wonderful.
Mhm.
Going back to the calendar and jumping, I've had teachers reach out to me and say that sometimes PD does not pertain to them. So as principals, you'll make sure that it pertains to your school, right?
Well, I mean, ideally, I think our time is going to be consumed with data.
Okay.
So professional
So
development.
it is going to apply to them.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's what I
So,
want to
there
make sure.
shouldn't be,
Not time wasted.
no, that's definitely not the idea at all. I mean,
Okay,
I understand what you're saying. I mean, I've been, as a teacher and principal, I've been part of that too. It's like, wow, this really doesn't have anything to do with me or my grade level or what I'm teaching, but that is definitely not the intent of these Fridays.
okay.
And I had that same concern as the Fridays, as a teacher that had who knows how many principals during that time. But a lot of those work shortened days that were supposed to be for the PD and stuff just turned up being teacher work days. Teachers were in their classrooms and that's not the intent of it. So,
Add that
No, not
too.
at all.
so
I mean, there will be teacher planning time with that because they will be readjusting instruction, but
mhm.
that's kind of a component of data-driven meetings, so.
So will you, because one of the concerns was, if we do that, will you be taking away the PD or that kind of time during the 4 days of the week where especially at the elementary level, where they can have those as just plan time?
Well, at individual schools, teachers should have plan time built into their schedules. Now, it may look different next year, particularly as our schedules shift and change. But at individual schools, it certainly, it shouldn't be our focus or our intent to take that away from them. I mean, they need that time, so that's the purpose of that.
Okay.
Have you gotten a lot of feedback from teachers as well? And you've taken that all into consideration and
I think the feedback we've collected in the survey form
Mhm.
has been pretty much what we've seen. So.
okay.
You said you'd send out a survey
We got
to
it.
them?
Yeah, we.
Oh, like you meant like on the PD, like.
Oh, not.
Oh, the
I was like,
calendar.
oh,
No, on the calendar.
Back to your point, but I
okay.
mean, you gotta understand, we're making this decision at the district level, and every teacher is gonna have a different lens of how they want it, because it's towards them. But what supports the district and the kids the best, well, that's what we're trying to do.
Right.
Yeah, we're here for the good of the kids.
We're doing a lot for the teachers right now. We're doing a lot for everyone right now. And now we need to concentrate on what the kids are getting at.
Mhm.
I appreciate that too.
I think this
Good
would be
state.
helpful to
I think so.
Fridays.
That was awesome.
What was that?
I think it would be helpful. Okay, a teacher's perspective. Where I'm at, they're looking for half or 2 Fridays a month, full day. So this has got a little bit more.
And really it was brought up too, that about 1 o'clock, people aren't as committed as they were when they showed up at 8. So to put a full day in there, 2 full days, that's gonna
I know.
be.
And so what does a half day look like? Will it be the same for secondary and elementary, that half day?
Well,
Will
I mean,
teachers start and end at the same time?
yeah, I mean, arguably it's 8 to 4, or 8 to 4.
I was going, that's a whole day.
Sorry.
Yeah, take it back there.
They're happy
The
now.
other half of the day is your own time, right?
8 to 12.
8 to 12, guys, back to back.
But, and at individual buildings, I think there's latitude for principals to do what they need to do to make sure that they have all of their staff there. So there could be some flexibility, but generally speaking, yes, 8 to noon, so that we could go through the data-driven process.
Yeah, I think that's fair to expect all teachers to do that. on Friday, 8 to 12.
Yeah.
I think I think that's a good perception for the community to see too, that they're all there 8 to 12.
Yeah. And, you know, I certainly can put that together in a formalized way that everybody has
Has that
a similar understanding.
Now, September has 3 half days. Is there a reason for that?
Because when we started it, we wanted to do every other Friday. So because there's 5 Fridays in September and we start on the 19th, those 3 days get hit. It's not necessarily, it ends up being 2 every month, but really it's
But you were
every
doing
other.
it every other Friday. Okay, that makes sense. I looked at that and I'm going,
And just out of curiosity, because this was something that was brought up though, is that Friday is the Friday before Labor Day, if there was a chance that there would even be, and I know you don't want to mess things up with like the kids, like trying to go to school on a Friday. But when there's a long weekend like that, where they would potentially have like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday off and then work, go to school that Friday. I don't know if that's something that is even as maybe more of maybe, I don't know if you'd call that a perk or not, or it's a kind of a give and take kind of a thing. Or if you even want to mess with something like that.
Well, I mean, we have posed the question to our administrative team, and by and large, the feeling was that being as consistent as we can is what is most important.
Yep. Okay.
And, you know, I mean, we could kind of bounce around on a lot of these.
Right.
And I feel like, you know, if we stick true to what we are trying to do, I think that's probably what's going to be best. I mean, we ask that of our schools, we ask it of our teachers, we ask it of our kids. We want consistency, and that's something that I think we need to hold true to.
I think
I had some, and I looked at some of these comments, and that was too, and I have had a couple come and ask about trading the 5th for the 20th of December. Just because, you know, it's still, and you know, we always look at, well, there's gonna be a large amount of kids gone either way. I truly believe that people are gonna go ahead and take the 5th as their last long weekend of the summer.
But we can't control that.
No, we can't. And people are gonna take and not go to school on the 20th because they want to start Christmas break early. They've got plans, they're gonna be gone.
Or even the 19th.
Which was the what number?
September.
September. Do you mean the 20th or the 21st of December?
No, the 20th, because, I mean, the 21st.
Okay.
The
I was going,
21st.
they're already in school on the 20th.
The 21st, I mean.
I don't.
Oh, so go on the 21st?
Go on the 21st and not go on the
Take the
5th.
5th off and go on the 21st.
We need to, the way the calendar works for this particular year, I think that's probably pretty doable with.
The only thing you're running into there is showing Christmas break. So that normally there's 2 weeks off for the Christmas, and now you're talking only a week and a half. Teachers over that break might extend that day. Teachers will be coming back unless you extend it again in January, but you do that, and you have to add another day.
Yeah, you gotta make.
Yeah, I mean,
That's true.
Yeah, but like we said, we're already doing a lot for teachers, and I totally support them. But I think that some of them would really appreciate the 5th of September off at the end of the summer, but maybe they would rather have that.
That extra day on
That other-
December.
If you're gonna do the 5th off, then you're gonna have to take the 2nd off on the Friday before too, to try to make it a long weekend. And
That's where they.
back into a whole bunch.
Well, they're off at noon on that day,
So,
but yeah.
I think if we start rearranging the calendar, then we're going to.
Yeah,
make a big
if you
mess.
just want to stick to what everybody's going to know is going to be what it's going to be, and then they can plan their time around that.
Yeah.
And with your commitment to 3 years of this, then, you know, we can, you know, I don't want to call this a beta test, but we can certainly look at that at the end as we go into next year and say what was effective.
Like how many kids didn't show up on the 5th, and if
Yeah.
it was not worth, you know, if we had just a 4th of the population of our students, would it behoove us to maybe
Rearrange it.
rearrange?
Right, exactly.
Okay,
Yeah, I think that'll be really good.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
yeah.
Be really good
I
to
like
look at. Mhm. Yeah, it's not like it can't be changed a little bit after that and stuff, so.
We changed it in the middle of the year this year, we can do.
Yes, but
Don't say that to me.
I think that somebody's wanting us to be consistent and slow down.
What about Mancus and Dolores's spring break? Are we right in line, or, because I thought it was we're a week off right here.
Yeah.
We should be right in line, and I checked with PCC, and
This is,
they didn't finalize their calendar, but they plan on having it the same week as they did last
So
year.
this is correct then?
Yeah.
So this is agreeable with
PC,
everybody.
same as last year?
They didn't confirm that their calendar's out, but they said that they plan on keeping it the same as they did, and last year's was that week that
Okay,
I went and checked that.
so it would.
The third week
line up.
of March.
Okay.
And it's a bit of an aside, but I had a meeting at PCC today that they, in conjunction with Dolores and Mancus and Duck Creek, we're all looking into putting together a series of courses that students could take at the secondary levels on those Fridays.
Good.
Where
Nice.
they could attend a class all semester long and potentially walk away with some type of certificate
Concur
or
Oh, nice.
college credit that they could carry with them into. So it's a pretty cool opportunity, I think, and PCC is really excited about doing this.
Oh, good.
That's
to
good.
hear. Yeah.
That's good. You know, we used to do that. When my son graduated, he walked into college as a sophomore.
And I hope that that's what, making that commitment for the years and stuff on this will
We can
start a lot more conversations like that
Yeah.
Right, and
to make that happen.
They're starting a little small, but their intention is to go big. And
Mhm.
in fact, they, in our meeting today, they were like, well, we don't particularly care so much about numbers this year because we want to get it started. But, we could look at it growing exponentially in the coming years. And
That's
it's
awesome.
all career and
Mhm.
college path
Mhm.
work.
Good.
Kids,
I like that.
I applaud that.
Just it makes a lot of different opportunities at different levels for kids, but some kids won't want to do it, some will, but at least that way they all have
Right.
that opportunity.
Well, I mean,
This is
just,
great.
It's there if they want to.
yeah, I mean, imagine a student who literally graduates from high school and the same day they have a certificate in welding. I
Mhm.
mean, they can go find employment at their.
And could they do
It's
something
happened.
like calculus too and stuff that we don't offer
Well,
now?
there's the possibility of some extended college courses as well, so.
That'd be awesome. That would, too bad you graduated.
Dang
But this would help get some of those gen ed classes out of the way for those kids.
Mhm, it would.
Potentially,
Save their parents money.
Well, thank you for doing that. That's
Yeah,
awesome. I think
That's great. Thank you.
On the other side of that, it creates an opportunity for maybe bus drivers to have something on Friday outside of the 4 days. So
Yeah.
the more we can look at
Work
making
with them.
opportunities on Fridays,
Yeah,
the
that's
better it
true.
works for everyone.
Our unintended consequences are going to be tough on some.
Well, and there's, in addition to that, there's even grants and services out there that would potentially pay for that busing on those days.
Of course, they could just give us the money,
Well,
so we
that would
don't
be
have to write a grant.
Gotta have a string attached.
Wow, that's some pretty exciting stuff to,
Yeah, that is, that's really good.
That is great.
Great.
Thank you.
yeah.
And I really appreciate you explaining the Fridays.
Me too.
It's like I always say, there's always an underlying story or two sides to each story.
We just
And
didn't.
that makes perfectly good sense. And it makes, I think, everyone understand the reason that is.
Well, and it's easy, I think it's easy to just, I don't want to say forget about what our students need, but, there's a lot of noise out there.
Sure. Mhm.
And understanding that we are here for the kids.
We're here to educate the kids.
Yeah, and ultimately that has to be what drives what we do. So, it's a balance, right? We're trying to
Absolutely.
keep good people with us, but at the same time, we have, it's our duty to educate our students. So that's what we have to weigh, and I think we've done some of that.
They're our priority.
I like that.
Anybody else have any thoughts, concerns, questions on the
No, I just
calendar?
explained, I like it.
Yeah, and I really like that whole, next year, see
See where we are.
where we're
And
at
decide.
and tweak it if we need to. If not, if it's working, then.
Yeah, have we gotten anywhere on start times and end times?
So we're in the middle of doing that. I had a meeting yesterday with transportation to start that conversation. I've gathered all the start and end times for what the schools currently are using. So the next part of that is our administrative team getting together, setting a couple scenarios of what start and end times are gonna look like for elementary and secondary. And then early next week, I'll go back to transportation and say, these are our start and end times. What do we need to do to make this happen? And I presented transportation with really, look, you're the professionals here. This is the start and end time we need. If you can make it work without going to a one bus route, provide us that information as an option, but then also provide us what it looks like as a one bus route so that the board can make that decision, because there is going to be some pushback to go to a one bus route, considering that's K through 12, right? You're going to be putting little kids on with older kids. So if we can get to where we need to get to without doing that, then that might save some flack when it gets to this level. But if not, our primary goal is to meet the start and end time that we're setting at the admin level. And
Right.
that's what transportation is gonna have to do.
We have to count our hours.
Well,
we have
and,
to count
yeah, and we're not the only district that does.
a one
I
best
mean,
route.
yeah, and, I think it's doable.
If we
Right.
need to, we can put aides on the bus if we have a one bus route.
And extra training, I mean, there's
Yeah.
different things that we can do to mitigate some of that stuff that does happen, right, in that sense. So I think we got a good plan. I think the overall goal is to make sure that we set a start and end time that works, that doesn't make the day look like you're going into 5 o'clock and starting before the sun comes up,
Mhm.
but also meets that, transportation's gonna be able to meet that goal of hitting that start and end time, so.
I know there were some concerns about how late some of the kids, how long and how late or early kids are on the bus, but most of those kids are in districts where that's been their lifestyle for a while.
Mhm.
Their parents are aware of where they live, how long it takes to get to town or things like that. Used to being, window time getting to and from home. And I think, as far as that concern goes, as far as like how long these kids are on the bus, I mean, it's just one of those things. It might be a price you pay for getting your education. And there'd be plenty of people out there that would be willing to be on a bus twice as long for an education. But I'm just saying that there's been some talk about how long kids will be on a bus. And I don't know if there's a legal amount of time that they can or cannot be on the bus.
There probably is, but I doubt.
But I don't think we hit that mark.
And the only reason I say that is because when I was working on the Navajo reservation, there were kids on the bus close to 2 hours.
Yeah.
And that was the limit, is 2 hours was kind of like, well, we need to figure something else out. I'm not saying that's what it is here, but I don't know if any of our kids are riding over an hour, or if they are, it was probably an accident and it's probably not an ongoing situation.
right,
I
okay,
agree.
okay.
But
I think it's more like, out north,
Right,
out,
exactly.
or down McElmo, or I don't, do we even go down McElmo, or do we have that stop still?
Well, Battle Rock has a couple buses down there, but they actually have one of their own bus drivers, so they have.
Okay. Okay, And-
But ultimately, we just want to get to a place where we can defend, just like Mr. Parr defended those, we just have to have a defendable plan and say, look, this is in the best interest of the kids in the district. Not everybody's probably gonna love it, but we're doing this for a reason. We're not doing this because we're trying to pin anybody down. Like, there is no real goal of why we're trying to do these things.
Okay,
no, I would agree, I agree.
thank you.
Maybe there needs to be a combination of some of that too, for some of it. I don't know.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Maybe there's a couple routes that do need to and the other ones don't need to.
That's what we were discussing this morning.
Yeah.
Look at your buses.
Yeah,
How
get
how
creative,
full they
yeah.
are, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you guys for explaining some of that.
Yeah.
It helped me a
Good
lot.
discussion.
Thank you.
Yep. Nope. All right. Thank you. Any other questions? Anybody? Okay. Okay, so now we have discussion item D, resolution on facility use.
Receive that?
That should be. We received that.
Three documents for that. They haven't been reviewed.
Okay,
There are none. Oh,
Okay.
so
Okay.
how do we discuss that? Our policy. Does anybody know what our policy says? I didn't bring my computer to look it up. Maybe this will do it.
My understanding that the resolution, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the resolution was supposed to be something that we could do so that we didn't have to change the policy.
Well, our policy, if I remember correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it said that it was for our kids' use. The community would pay a facility use if it like, they used to come in and I don't know if they still do, but do musicals and stuff like that. They'd have a concert.
the community concert.
Community concerts and stuff like that, then they would pay the facility use. But if our kids were using it, even if it wasn't a school activity, but it was our kids, then we did not charge. I don't know why I got that opinion, but maybe it's just the way I interpreted the policy.
Yeah, and maybe Deb might have some clarification in this, but my understanding was that in the wake of like that whole flourish of MOUs that we were gonna put together
Yeah.
for each individual group, it was upon recommendation from the attorney that instead of doing all of these MOUs, we could just do one resolution that basically says that these groups can use our facilities without paying fees as long as they're like students within our schools, et cetera.
Well,
Right.
I think our policy even named like Little League could use it without paying and stuff. And so, I mean, I now just use Pee Wee Wrestling, or something, brought it all up. That would be like a Little League or a youth basketball could use it.
Well, I think that the issue is we did, but there were still fees involved, and this is where Ms. Eldred would probably be better to speak to, because I believe the schedule for fees was changed earlier this year. And that's what kind of brought all this up, that there was gonna be a cleaning fee. So even if you waived all the other fees.
And I understand that.
There was
Because then
gonna
if-
be like a $25 fee a night. And so if you add that up, it was gonna be hundreds of dollars a month if they were practicing at night. So I think the idea was to waive everything for these kids' organization groups, and that's what this resolution is for. But I don't want to speak for Ms. Eldridge. I just am trying to.
And I think that's where it was headed. the way
Right,
We understood it.
because it was costing the district so much money. And we had to have somebody there to make sure the doors were
Right, there were.
guarded and. I remember that conversation with him.
But my concern about that is those custodians are already there cleaning the buildings when these, and I'm just gonna use the Pee Wee wrestling and the basketball. They're not practicing or participating until 10 o'clock at night when there's no custodians there. My understanding is the custodians come in and work until
So they could clean.
10 or
and
11
that is the
o'clock.
last room.
That's
yeah.
their shift. And then they can come back and clean those other areas and clean a different area first.
Just like, we wouldn't be wrestling this time of year. So that wouldn't be clean at all because wrestling.
We're just using that as an example, though. Youth basketball.
But they're in there now.
Oh, they are in there now?
Wrestling's in there now, so now that's another duty added on to the custodians that wouldn't be normally done.
But they do it, they were doing it 2
They were
weeks
doing it
ago.
before, you're right.
Yeah.
But we wouldn't be doing it now if they weren't in our building.
Well,
And then it also happens a lot with the summer. I think that's where the custodians are not always here. And on the weekend, we didn't have to adjust because we do not always have custodial staff on the weekend to cover that, especially in the spring when there's no indoor sports. So,
And I think that's what the resolution was gonna address was,
Okay.
it was more the practice part of it, right? Is if we're gonna come in on, if an organization is gonna come in on the weekend or outside of that time, I think they need to be charged because it's, to your point, there's no one there and they need to come in on
Right.
time.
Right.
But for the practice part of it, so like right now, wrestling practice is at Kemper, right? And so there is a custodian there that's there till I believe 6:30 or 7 or something to that effect. But the idea is we clean as much of that as possible because it's not the custodian's contract isn't to clean up after us when we're
Right.
there.
Right.
Obviously, they're gonna have to, so that's where the onus has to be on those organizations too, to make sure we're doing our best to clean up the situation, because if that's what we're gonna do and not charge, then we need to make sure that both sides are taken care of.
Mhm.
On the same token, we have an agreement with the city that we're kind of looking at right now and seeing how to adjust that, because we found out last week that the city have keys that they give out to these volunteer coaches at the city to practice at our buildings. And I said, what?
In our buildings?
And then I looked at this.
That's been happening for
And
years.
then I looked at this MOU that was from 2007, and sure enough, that's the language in here. And so
We need cleaned up.
we're coming across these things as like, well, what makes sense here and what should we be doing as a district? It sounds good on paper to have that agreement with the city, but I think that's a little crazy too, in my opinion.
I said that one several years ago. You know, we don't know where those keys are. We don't know we don't know who's responsible for
Right.
collecting those keys again. And they keep those keys for years and we don't know, you know.
So basically, if we do this, we'll have to rekeep,
Well,
and that's not cheap.
one of the things that we're looking at, and I'm hoping Esther can cover this, is, but we're looking at doing what they have at the high school to the whole district.
The scan cards.
And that would take care of not having to rekey. If someone left or something changed, it's just you go to a computer, you fix it. and
Disable it.
Everything's fixed, but that's not here yet. So we're trying to address things we have. But long story short, our facility uses have been very open, and I know that we're a tight-knit community and we all trust each other, but it's what's the right thing to do. And it's not that we still can't use each other's facilities and do all these things and do great things for these youth organizations, but there has to be some risk mitigation from the district's part.
Guidelines.
Definitely.
Right. So ultimately, you will be responsible for anything. So we need to make sure we're doing the right thing.
So,
Okay.
Hello?
yes,
No?
that's it.
Cindy?
Hey, Cindy.
I apologize I'm not there this evening, but as you can tell, I've lost my voice. I just wanted to reiterate on the facility use plan that it is dictated by SIDSIP, our liability insurance.
Uh-huh.
They provide us the guidelines and how we should mitigate this with other activities outside of the district. They also provide us with the guidelines of what we should allow to, or we should allow to use our facilities free of charge, and then we should charge for. Sorry, it's probably hard to understand what I'm saying.
Yes.
Yes, we
Yeah.
do. Yep. So I think that we can't reach a decision on this until you feel better. And,
I am feeling.
and we can actually see a resolution and discuss it more deeply. Do you agree?
Yes, ma'am.
It's the insurance.
No, you sound horrible, by the way.
Thank you for joining us.
MCSD.
So the only thing that I have on that is I was put in the pickle of contacting the 4 or 5 local groups that had approached us. And the last conversation I had with them is that they would be signing an MOU. And of course, with these conversations and these changes from the attorney, that's changed and nobody's gotten back to them. So somebody just needs to be the go-between with those groups and tell them where we're at.
When do they want to use it?
January.
When do they,
They've already started this.
they're using our facilities now
Yeah,
without permission?
with the understanding that they would be signing an MOU that we have not provided.
Do they understand that they will probably be charged?
Well, all the deposits, that I know of them put in, it's,
They have been put in.
yeah, all the
Okay.
deposits for the fees, everything there, it's a matter of the fees for the cleaning fees that was kind of like, well, we'll wait till the end of the month and we'll see if there was an action by the board to see if they're gonna be, so those are the things that are adding up right now.
Okay.
And I can tell you, they probably wouldn't have done it without thinking this was gonna happen. And then I'm speaking for all those outside organizations, basketball, wrestling. If they didn't think that this was gonna be addressed, they probably would have stopped their council runs to do it. So I'm just letting you know that up front too.
That we're obligated to address.
Well, yeah, we just need to address it so that everybody understands what the expectations are.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess we'll see it. Oh, that's Cherry's job. Never mind.
Well, I was just wondering, so this is something that Cindy will just bring back to us from CIDSA as far as like their,
Yeah, we need to wait and let Cindy address it.
so then we'll, I guess, and I don't know if we can move forward anywhere else until we get that.
Right.
So, okay, so we will revisit that another time. And then we've got discussion item E, policy KHC and KHCR, distribution, posting of promotional literature. So those ones should be in our packets.
If they are.
Did anybody have any questions, concerns?
This is what we've had in the past, and it was.
Has not been revised since May of,
2012.
yeah.
Well, I did a little more research on it too, because I'm the one that brought it up when we had Mr. Pearson, about what could be posted and what could not be posted in our school system. And what's the sad thing is this KHC and KHCR has not been revised since 2012.
Right.
However, the referrals of should we go into another place to look, is JICEA and JICEC. And they're almost the same, but a little different, where KHC and HCR says that the principal is responsible and has to have notice within 48 hours before something can be posted. But again, this is another thing that's way outdated and evidently got overlooked. I don't know. But in the other ones, and the JICEA ones, it says that there's publications advisors in the school systems. And those advisors help the students with what they are learning and what they need to make publications for so that they can get education credits in their classes. And so these all need to be adjusted together rather than just to separate one out. And if you guys want, I made you all a copy of each.
She might be well organized.
You maybe one for Debbie. There's two.
That's not have one.
I have one.
All right.
I personally, in my opinion, and I certainly gave this a lot of thought, but I would like publications that are posted only to have to do with what is education that is going on for our students in the school system, not all of the other so-called junk or whatever that's hanging on the walls, and that we should be in control of it. I'm not saying a different sect like LGBTQ or any of the other things, but also includes religion. However, I would love to see prayer back in the school and everything, but that's not going to happen with everything that's going on right now. So I think everything should be separated out and not just pick on one thing. And that's why I was looking into this.
Well, and I think that this revision that we had the attorneys look at and sent us kind of address it, or not kind of, it does address it.
I didn't know where that came from. I had not seen that.
Yeah. And I think that it will help. It's in our packet.
Uh-huh.
It's a new policy that they're saying that we should look at.
So maybe
it says file XXXX. And I think that it could help our administrators in
I do too.
And giving them a guideline.
Yeah, giving them guideline, giving them something to have to be able to help with this whole situation.
And I think all of those three things need to look together, rather than have one in 2012 and the next one is in 2018 or 19, whatever it was, that we do it now and that it's current to take care of our teachers as well.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
And our students, we're there to teach our students.
Yeah.
I don't know when.
We cannot go after one group and not all of them.
That's right.
So,
Yeah.
There's some overlap, I think, as
When that
far as some of these policy,
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
policies and
there
stuff.
is.
Part of this has to do with the school publication, which, do you
Uh-huh.
have a high school have a paper now anymore? Okay. But I know years and years past, we had lots and lots of very heated discussion over articles that went in
Oh, yeah.
from students in
Yeah,
the
the
paper.
Panther Press.
That's one set of this, which is not part of the other set.
Right.
The other set, what you're talking about with the teachers is that, and I hope that everybody listens to what Kyle said here, that we're doing a lot for teachers. We're trying to get a lot done right now. But teachers have got to be willing and professional to leave certain things outside the front door of their building. And if they can't do that, to me, they need to probably tune up their resume and find someplace else to be. That's all there is to it.
I totally agree.
Well, yeah, and I think that these two, the one that Jeanette just handed out, the JICEC and A, those ones pertain to the yearbook, the
Yeah,
Panther
it's-
Press, all of those kinds
Yeah.
of things. The KHCR and the KHC pertain to what the new proposed policy that the lawyers have written out for us. We're talking about two different policies or two different
yeah.
publications.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
That
Yeah.
they refer to each other,
I do not like to see politics, political views come into a school.
No.
And so I don't believe that it belongs there. I'm sorry, I don't. I know that when I taught school, we were not allowed to. be
I read it earlier.
Political or religious. If I gave out a really hard test, I would tell the kids to visualize making an A, go through that test visually. I never said, let's all get down on our hands and knees and say a prayer.
Right.
Because that would have got me fired right there. It's not my business to do a religious thing nor a political thing. So.
So have you guys all been able to see it and?
Yeah, I read it.
This XXX one.
Mhm.
Yeah, I read it.
Yeah, I looked at it earlier.
I read it yesterday, actually.
Who pulled this up and where did we get it from?
Which one?
The staff participation in political activities. I assume it's file XXXX because it hasn't been assigned a number.
Right, it's just a draft.
Our lawyer
Yes.
drafted it up?
Yes.
Okay, because I've seen it in other school districts have used it, so I was just wondering where we
Yeah,
came up
yeah,
with this.
this was a draft from the attorney.
It's not an advisement from the state or anything?
No,
No,
no, no, no. This was a draft from the attorneys.
To help us keep, because some of our administrators just really need some clear guideline.
We can ask.
Because it's kind of gray.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
that gray area again that I don't like. It's, we need black and white
If you're going to be an administrator, it's got to be black and white.
and so that they can go right back to where it's, this is where it says, this is why, and have something to stand on instead of kind of like, well, you can read it this way, but it kind of sounds like you can take it this way. They just need some clear guidance.
Well,
And this
yeah.
may be able to help them with that, so. So I know Jeanette, you probably had some changes that you had,
Did you
on
put
your-
some- yeah.
I did not make any changes yet.
Yeah,
We discussed it because
okay.
I felt it all should come from the board.
Okay, well, I mean, everybody can be making what their recommendations or changes are, things like that, and bring it back and for some more discussion.
Mhm.
And we can include, and since
But I agree with her that we need to make sure that they're not conflicting.
Right. So make sure that some of the things in the JICA and CEC aren't conflicting with some of the other
Yeah.
ones. that are- Okay.
Well, and they suggested that we don't even need, if we adopt this policy,
The XXX.
yeah, we don't need it covers both the KHCR and the KHC. That we don't
Actually, it
need
does.
those.
I agree with that.
Yeah, that we don't need those, that it gives a clearer path to where this needs to go.
Well, that would be amazing to get rid of
To get rid of
4 pages to 1.
That's right. Wouldn't that be awesome?
So now our policies are only 1,597 pages. Or policies, I should say policies.
Yeah.
Paul, would you happen to be able to share that?
Absolutely.
Because I think everybody would like to have a look at that as well.
Seriously?
Huh?
We can't just, I don't need to say,
hand
here,
you
you have to
mine.
do this. Here's one too.
That's my wife's job.
You have to do it?
Yeah.
There's another one too.
Yeah.
And it is available online in our board packet.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, it's on online on our board packet. too, she said. Yes, I know.
I don't necessarily see those as being totally,
Redundant?
yeah, because I think, this distribution and posting and stuff, I mean, they're talking about littering and a lot of different things there that really, I don't think pertain to the sample one that we're.
Right.
on. So I don't think.
They don't. It does not, yeah.
So, I mean, what I see that one more being is you have somebody come in, whether it's the Army, and hand out brochures and stuff. It's their responsibility to make sure that they're not littering all over.
Yeah, you can see it laying out on the patio or the parking lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's totally different than the other part that we're looking at, I think.
So we may need to
And-
keep it, yeah.
I can guarantee you that no attorney's gonna want to cut out 2 pages of anything anyway. There's have them there, the more chance they have.
I agree that's Ed.
And I think there's probably still a lot more on that. There's a lot more wording, a lot more narrative that goes into that yet, but that's just the beginning. Yeah.
Right.
Another couple paragraphs, I think it could be pretty straightforward, I think.
0. Oh, I was 1.
You guys need another.
Oh, wait. I'm sorry, I was born in 93.
You can have this one.
You're right. More correct than you.
I have this one yet.
What's that?
Oh,
yeah.
you've got it.
Just need to- Okay. That is a policy that we will probably look at trying to
Needs more discussion.
needs
yeah.
more discussion and maybe a tweak here or there, but make sure that we're aligning with.
Come back for a first reading on it and stuff later.
Right.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Okay, do we have any more discussion on either of those 2 policies or the,
Saying that we're considering this XXX for first reading.
I think since this is the first time people have seen it, that maybe, I mean,
I think that we need to bring this back here at a
Yeah.
work session and discuss it
Yeah,
in March.
yeah, and
At our work
just
session
discuss
in
a little
April.
bit more and have, because, have some time to think on it, we just,
I'll put it on for, I guess would be April work session now,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
And then these other policies, do they need to come back up sooner than that, or all of this in one conversation?
All in one conversation.
Yeah.
I think we're all in one.
Yeah, all in one. Mhm.
Thank you. I will check with CASB to see if they have a similar version of this in the meantime.
Okay, thank you, Deborah. Okay. All right. And moving on to our action item.
What about?
Can I discuss the next?
KDBE, public request for open records form. Yes, sorry about that.
It's right in front of you too.
Right, yeah, it's this one right here.
I'm so glad I'm not the only one that does that.
So this is the form that Deborah kind of composed to make sure that we are able to she's been bombarded with Cora requests. The admin office has been, so more of a simpler way to send some of these folks to our website to get this form and be able to fill that out and turn it in along with their request. And we keep track of that a little simpler. And I think Deborah, I think it helped you quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a pending policy that we would like to adopt into our rest of our policies. Public request for open record form. So
You mentioned in the last meeting that you'd like to have somewhere on here, you have to fill this out for
Each request.
each request.
Yeah, and we've all been back and forth a couple times on that, so I didn't make a final decision on what was best. So I was gonna leave that for you to decide.
It's tricky because the first hour is free, right? And so then if they
Yeah.
ask for 20 things, that first hour is free and then we do the next 20. Now, if they ask 20 separately, then that's 20 free hours.
That's right.
mhm.
Or,
That was brought up.
I almost think it would be nice to have not 20, but maybe 5 or something is kind of a minimum.
Like no
Yeah,
more
like
than,
Maximum
No more than
request per form, like a maximum
Per form, yeah.
request.
Yeah, have a maximum, yeah. And then a minimum number they can do per week or something, but give us time to respond to each one. But I don't know if that's legal, so.
what did we
We'd have to
say,
check that.
4 or 5?
I mean, that's a,
Is that something that would be possible? That's
I don't
not.
think we can limit.
Yeah.
I think we can do what we're talking about, 5
Yeah.
form.
5 per
But
form,
they
yeah.
will be able to put in as many.
They can put in 5 of these, 5,
That's, I think,
25.
But, and still get that first hour free for every time they put this in?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
So
that's
if
that's
they
kind of a.
get 20 requests,
That's
they would
wrong.
have 4. They'd have to fill out 4 of these forms, correct? Is that what we're saying?
If they wanted 20 requests, they have to fill out 4 of them.
4 of these forms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
now what if they chose to do it separately, each one? We couldn't bundle them or anything?
I don't know if we want to box ourselves in because we don't know if the requests are going to be coming in.
Yeah.
Right,
So
right.
that's I don't know how to answer your question specifically. I just don't.
Well, I think legally they could just.
Yeah.
They do one at a time.
Yeah,
I don't see how we can stop it.
Because they're going to play games in their way.
Still get around it. So,
So did we decide on a wording change?
If we're going to put 5 on there, I think we need to put that under that information and documents requested and then have a listing there or something for 5, but I don't know. That's.
5 requests per form,
Maximum of 5 requests, yeah.
maximum.
And basically then put, 1 through 5 so that they fill it out like that.
At least that would give our staff time to
You
address
don't want
them.
them to get 5 every time.
No.
up to 5,
No,
up
but
to
this
5.
is,
But-
some people only want 1.
Where it says, please be specific, and then you can put, no more than 5 requests per page or whatever, and then list them in there.
Okay, I will add that for second reading.
Docs. I requested documents preferred. Okay. 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 And you'll bring that back in April, or I mean, April's,
I think we can do second reading March 15th,
okay.
because we've already done first reading on that one.
Oh, what is, yeah, March, we're in March, okay.
It's fine.
Okay, yes, okay, all right, action item, 5A, to appoint an interim superintendent. Do I hear a motion to appoint an interim superintendent? Or,
You
Explanation.
need to read the
oh,
resolution.
I need to read, okay.
No. You want me to do it?
Oh, you know, yes, I would like to turn the floor over to Ed to explain a couple of things.
Okay. They always call me up with party pro stuff, so, and this is not a typical party pro type thing, so. What Sherry mentioned earlier about the legislation that will allow executive sessions to this, we do not have that luxury right now.
No.
So we have not had any discussion after interviews on Saturday, and no discussion of the board on one way or the other. So what we are told we have to do from the attorney, which, and it doesn't make perfect parley pro sense to me, but that's what we're gonna go with, is that we have to read the resolution and we insert a name into that resolution. Then we will have a motion to accept the resolution, second it, and then that's when we can discuss that person. Okay, so by choice, the resolution, the first resolution, we're going to go in the same order as what the interviews were. So as a scenario, the first one would be Tom Burris then. If that passed, then we're basically done. But if it doesn't, then we'll have another resolution with Ember's name in it. Does everybody follow that? So that's why this has to be done, is because there's been nothing that was able to be done earlier on this. So, okay. Any
So on
questions?
this first one, I write in Tom's name.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep, yeah.
So,
You have two?
yes, I do
Okay,
have two.
all right.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
I think it's Harry.
Yeah, I've got the,
It seemed like I read that somewhere. Yeah, I sat in the hospital room today reading Google, trying to figure this out.
This is not a typical party pro
And it,
issue that we're
it doesn't,
talking.
yeah.
Okay, do
I don't care.
It's just an action item, so I just need to know,
Need to hear the resolution.
Okay. Resolution appointing an interim superintendent of Montezuma-Cortez School District RE1. Whereas the Board of Education has considered the candidates included in district's list of finalists for the position of superintendent and of interim superintendent, I'm sorry. And whereas the Board of Education has selected a finalist to appoint to as interim superintendent. And whereas the board declares its finalist at least 14 days before the Board of Education makes this appointment pursuant to Colorado Revised Statute 246402 3.5. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Education of Montezuma-Cortez School District RE1 that we appoint Harry J. Tom Burris to the position of interim superintendent for Montezuma-Cortez School District RE1.
okay, do I hear a motion to appoint an interim superintendent?
I make a motion that we appoint as an interim superintendent, Harry J. Tom Burris.
Yes.
I'll second that.
Motion by Sherry Wright, seconded by Ed Rice. Is there any discussion?
So I will say a couple of things. I thought he was a really cool guy, very, very nice, respectful. But I did have several concerns with him. And so I know he's got a lot of history here in the district. I know a lot of you guys know him well and are all these friends. One of my concerns with him was how many people he had joining these several, joining the board with intent to remove him. It seems like there was at least 4 different cases, separate incidences where people were trying to remove him from the board. To me, that makes me nervous. That's a pretty big red flag to me.
4?
Did he say he listed off quite a few?
4 board members, but not
4
4.
separate incidences where a board member, someone ran for the board.
There were 2, but there were 4 separate board members, is the way I understood it.
2 what? 2 incidences?
Mhm.
I remember more than that.
Okay.
I remember.
I'm not going to argue with you,
Yeah,
buddy, because
but-
I
So there,
got my notes.
that was one of my concerns. During the interviews, I'll say I think there was several concerns I had that he addressed well, and there were several things that I thought were kind of a challenge for me. One was his prioritization. He basically just said, "I'll just do whatever is due first." And I thought Ember answered that one far more appropriately with, where are we legally and what's going to be, I have my notes here. And so, she discussed like federal mandates, what has flexibility, and that's how she's going to prioritize. He just basically said whatever's coming first, which kind of makes me nervous. 2, and this one was a really big one. This one was a really big red flag to me. I remember him mentioning that he had fired somebody in his HR position and that the person was suing him. And so that's scary for me, even though I think he felt very justified in the process, but the lawsuit went far enough to have a monetary amount. So it wasn't some minimal lawsuit, and he said it was dropped, but I don't know if I trust that well. And so that makes me really nervous. And then another thing, and I'm sorry, but I have to say, I think he's been reaching out to several board members. When you said you walked with him, Sherry,
Sure.
I think it was very inappropriate for him to reach out and contact you at all.
It's because he had talked to me about his daughter and I recommended Avery.
I
to show
think
him.
you should have contacted the principal. So those are my thoughts. Quite frankly, my biggest concern is putting a superintendent in when we're already doing really well. I think our board of executive directors are doing an incredible job. And it makes me really nervous to put somebody in that's kind of rushed. And
So are you saying, don't put anybody in, just let them stay?
that I would honestly prefer it.
That makes sense.
I think our executive directors are doing an incredible job, and I'd rather take it. We didn't give this process very long. I mean, this has been very quick, as fast as you possibly can legally. And I'd rather open it up for a lot longer, or just take more time with the process, because both of the interim superintendents that applied, I think they have incredible knowledge and experience, very kind and personable, but they come with a lot of things that make me nervous. Right now, I don't have any of that fears with our executive directors at all.
That's true.
So that's my stance on it.
I'm not sure what you mean by we moved fast on this, Cody.
We did move fast.
Bayfield fired their superintendent at their board meeting, and the same board meeting appointed their interim.
That's too fast.
We took
That's
our
fast
time.
enough, and that's way too fast. So
The man is
How we're moving too fast.
I hear what you're saying as far as it's.
Yeah, and-
But I think we're in a really stable, good position right now
Yeah.
where we shouldn't rush. And so
Are we allowed to ask
Yeah.
opinions from these?
so I didn't want to ask you guys'
Well, I was
opinions,
wondering.
because if someone gets appointed and you guys say something, I don't want it to cause any kind of issue.
Cody, this is
So-
between us and the,
Yeah, but that's.
thank you.
okay.
I agree with a lot of what you say. I think that you can turn the coin over and say the same thing on the other side.
As far as who?
On Ember. The same things
I agree.
happened, that happened with Tom, happened with Ember. I'll tell you why I would vote for Tom is not because he's a personal friend, because I haven't seen him in years. I worked under him, but coming into the first time I had seen him in years. Probably, my husband's been gone for 12 years, probably 15 years since I even talked to him. So we're not close friends, just to get that out there right there. But he did talk about discipline, holding true to the policies. He answered our questions directly. She skirted everything and never once did she mention discipline. I felt like every time we asked her a question, she just said the same thing through a different way. So that was my concern there. I think that we need somebody strong at the helm. I don't think that she is strong enough to be at the helm. And I hate having this discussion in front of everybody, but I agree with you. I think that our team has been phenomenal. And so I do agree with that.
So that brings me back to discipline. I wasn't very thrilled with how he addressed the discipline questions. So I know you just said a very positive part to that. To me, I think all of our staff addresses discipline issues extremely well.
Oh, yeah.
And, I think there's a lot of good programs and ways that they've implemented things. I think he has a very old school mentality, which there's a lot of positive to that. But, when he said verbatim, when a kid acts here and you act here, they're just going to run over you. When a kid acts here, you need to match it with this. And that's kind of like aggressive and cause for concern. Like how extreme do you want to take some of that? Especially when our principals and staff are, we're seeing a lot of disciplinary actions.
That being said, he will enforce policies through our principals. He will not have communication with the kids.
Yep.
So that one, you can relieve yourself. He will work through.
That was still a concern that he
will work through his principals, not with the kids. So that being said, Ed, what do you think?
And when you're talking about that discipline like that and that level, Cody, I look at the same as parenting too. I think that's a lot what he was referring to too. And it is that it's the same as parenting, is that that's what you have to react with your kids to get that response. I did very minimal work with Tom years and years ago. And if he's watching, he's probably still remembers that we hosted the state FFA convention here about 15, 16 years ago, which is a huge deal to host in a town like this. First night of it, we blew our power out of the gym. You remember that? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think we had every electrician in Southwest Colorado up there, and they hot wired it into the cafeteria at the old high school. 440 volts hot. And me and Macomb just sort of stood back and said, have at it. And then after that was all done and stuff, Tom actually hit me up that the FFA should pay for that, and which I don't think there was really any charge on it, hardly. And my response to him was that, what if the lights went out on the football field on Friday night? Does the football team pay for that too, to get the lights fixed? And I don't think they do. So I'm trying to make it sort of short, but then it was probably a year and a half later, I walked into his office one day and he brought that up again about that power bill. And I said, Tom, it's obviously been paid. Why do you keep bringing this up? I don't know. So that's a lot of my relationship with Tom anyway, was going through stuff like that. But Tom was very persistent on stuff, very persistent. He's not going to let things sit. And I like that quality of him. I think he's a very strong person. And what else say on? I was trying to look through my notes a little bit from Saturday here, and I'll look through some more. The one thing that you brought up about the due dates, I think, did you say, Cody, about him talking about the due dates and stuff, about that you didn't like his response on that?
Oh,
Prioritize,
yeah.
The priority.
What I wrote down was to take the first one that's due. If you don't, the rest really don't matter. That was what I wrote down there.
That's what I wrote
And
down
that I agreed with.
I disagree.
So.
That's funny how different perspectives, I guess.
Absolutely. That's,
That's why we're on this board, because we do have different.
Yeah.
That's the awesome thing about being on this board.
I did pros and cons sheets of my own that I made up on each one of them. And under him, what I ended up coming up with is that his interview to us showed us that he will devote his time, attention, and energy to the business of the district. And his plan was the leadership team, the principal leadership, the schools, the board retreat, and our children education in the school system.
My concern, something that Amber said, and it really hit me wrong, and maybe not you, because we come from different points of view. But when she said that she was going to train our board how to be board members, I'm sorry, that is not the superintendent's job. That would be like asking a teacher to train our principals on how to do their job. We don't do that. We are the board. We train ourselves. We find the people that we need to train us, and we do it that way. We do not have our principal come in and train us. So that really, to me, you just don't do that. I've been talking to Sherry for quite a while on having another board retreat and having a few people come in and train us that are very knowledgeable on board work, on education board work. I don't think that our superintendent should do it. And so that one really, to me, that raised red flags, because I'm a control freak, and that really screamed control. So because I understand control, I recognize it. So.
And I also had Ember as a principal at the high school when I was there too. And I think probably one of the biggest things, and I know that was years ago, a lot of maturity has gone over the bridge since then, I know, with her and stuff. But the one part that bothered me the most on her interview though, which I'm not a fan of Zoom interviews anyway.
Yeah.
But the one part that bothered me the most was telling us, which I appreciate that she told us up front, is that she was already planning 2 weeks off there in April and May. And, when you're only looking at about a 4-month thing, that sort of, to me, really
screams. Yeah, and it's the important time of our year.
yeah.
Yeah, it's the really important time of our year when she's going to be gone. And I would never ask her to give up her 50th birthday.
No.
Never, never, never.
and not to say that there's some things that can't be done remotely and stuff like that. I know there is, but to me, there's the commitment. So.
Well, I've had a lot of teachers reach out to me asking me to bring him in, and not middle school teachers, but elementary teachers. So I haven't had as many. I've had many phone calls too from friends that are teachers and have talked to me, and not middle school teachers. And I've had just as many asking me not to hire her. So.
Yep, I've seen a lot of emails in support of both and in opposition to both. So
yeah, I've had
there's
both.
a lot of history.
Yeah, I've had both. They both have history.
Definitely.
So
That is definite.
There definitely is a lot of history, for both of them around here.
But I would
We're
tell you
here
that
very long. I mean, both of them.
Amber
Here a long time.
gave a beautiful interview. She is an expert interviewer. I was very impressed with the way she interviewed, even though she didn't answer the questions that I wanted her to answer. She knew how to interview, and I think that she did an excellent job doing that.
she did a very good interview for sure.
So
The other thing that hasn't been brought up, I liked about Tom is that he talked about a strategic plan.
Yes.
And
he was going to let us be a part of it.
Yeah. And I'm not a control freak. I'm
I am.
someone who wants to, I want the input of everyone, and I want to
Oh, I do
be
too.
able
But
to have that, I'm not all about control. That's not my gig. But the strategic plan was one thing that I really appreciated about Tom. The other one was the fact that please tell us more about specific jobs or experience you have held and how they relate to this position, and where he said that he thought teaching wasn't for him. I'm going to I'm gonna leave this profession. I'm gonna go somewhere else. I'm gonna go to the oil fields. Well, I quickly learned that the oil fields was a hard job and that was not for me, that I needed to go back to teaching where I needed to go. Amber was a good principal. And I think she did some good things all the way around. I think she, like Ed says, there definitely has been some maturity from the time that I worked under Amber to now, I'm sure. But my other big concern about Amber is the fact that she would be gone for 10 days. And to that point, that brings me to what Cody had to say about, we've got 3 executives team that has done a great job for the last almost 2 months now.
July.
Month and a half. But
Yeah.
is that
Takes 6
something,
months.
that we really want them to have to be able, or have to do and not get the rest of their job done? I don't want to burn these 3 people
They're
out
hired.
because I don't want to lose these 3
Yeah.
people. They're excellent people.
We can't
And-
afford to lose. them.
Yeah, and they've done some tremendous things for us and for our district and for our building leadership. I think that they have really brought a lot of their expertise, a lot of their knowledge, and a lot of their calmness to help our
bad situation,
building
yeah.
leadership move in the direction that they need to move in. But I am very concerned about if we went in this direction, that Amber would be gone for what is a very important time
The
of
most
the
important
year.
time of the year, yeah. There's 2
for-
times, beginning and the end.
Yeah. That would be one of my big concerns.
So I do want to reiterate the fact, I think Ember interviewed extremely well. I have mentioned my concerns with Tom. I have plenty of concerns for Ember. What I'm advocating for is not necessarily to hire Ember either. So I know you guys have been talking a lot about Ember. My thought would be to not hire either. So
Yeah.
just to clarify that.
Well, no, I understood that.
And, I was really hoping that we would be able to have executive session and have our executive directors come in and advise us. Since that's not possible, I know that's really tough to actually hear their voices. I truly believe they'll be able to handle the burden. I think they're doing an excellent job, and I know they'll do whatever it takes to keep this district going. So, I'm not trying to advise that route.
Yeah.
Thinking we're just going to lose all of our executive directors. So.
Like,
I just think they're doing a lot of heavy lifting right now. They need some
I think they need.
weight taken.
Oh. Yeah, I don't know that would be fair in earlier discussions when, asked if they could do this until we could get somebody in. It was, that was kind of the agreement, until we can get somebody in, and like you say, without actually being able to talk with them as that being an option.
Well, I have a question. Has anybody on the board asked them?
I have.
Before or after the interim was.
After it's been announced. So just.
I know that they're willing to do anything for us, but I've also understand that they need help. They need more office help or something. They need more help. I'm ragging him over data, and he is completely covered up. Sorry about my language. He was completely covered up trying to get our curriculum going. And here I am all over him over the calendar and data. And he's spending many sleepless nights, I'm sure, worrying about this curriculum. I don't think it's fair for us to ask him to keep being our lead. I'm sorry, Jim.
Oh, you're fine.
It's been a long, hard
I
day.
understand.
Week.
Good thing he's got broad shoulders.
I think at this point, the resolution is in regards to Mr. Burris. And so I don't know as far as the discussion on anything outside of that
Right.
is
You mean as far as,
like the action item is the resolution on Mr. Burris. And the discussion kind of swayed away from that. And I think we need
I think
to.
it's pretty relevant.
yeah, I think you have to talk about pros and cons of both, whether, you know, to make a decision on that, I think.
Okay.
And back to your question, Cody, I did talk to Cynthia quite a bit yesterday too. And the only reason I only contacted Cynthia was she was the one that did the interviews watching it. So I wanted to get her feedback on that too. So
And I don't want to, yeah. Okay.
on the phone, I didn't want to
I
get,
started to say.
I've been sick enough the last month.
Yeah.
Seems like that's all we've done around our place too. It's really-
Recollection, but not after interviews. I have not.
I talked to her briefly on the phone. We did not discuss any of this. But I have talked to her substantially since they've been in doing this job.
Well, I mean, I'll still say it. I think my concerns are valid and
Oh, I agree.
And I-
I think
honestly,
you're
I think
on the
there's-
point.
yeah, enough
I
to be
think
a
you're on the
concern.
point, yeah.
So.
And I think I would be where that no matter who we get at this point, there will be something following any of these interim superintendents that but I don't know that it's fair to bypass this now and in hopes of I don't know where they stand on that to make a solid decision.
You don't wait, I'm sorry, say that.
Where they stand on continuing till the end of the year. Prior conversations were they would rather not. That could have changed.
I mean, if you feel like we don't have enough information to make the decision, then I think I would be more beneficial to postpone this until we can have the information to make the decision.
How much more information do you want? I'm sorry.
I
mean like from the directors.
Oh, okay. I started saying, I've Googled it, both of them and
From the
studied
directors.
both, yeah.
I say we carry on.
Mhm.
Mhm.
We have a motion on the table.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You've been pretty quiet down there, huh? You've been pretty quiet down there. Everybody's done. I'll question.
Yeah.
He's like, it's 7:36, I gotta get home.
I'll call for the question.
We have to vote on that?
Mhm.
Okay.
Second, and you have to vote.
I'll second the question.
And it does require a 2/3 vote.
So
They're taking away somebody's rights.
Okay, so
The vote is on the question, Sherry.
okay, so the action item is to appoint.
No, we have to
no,
vote on the
the
question.
question.
Oh,
What is
On the
the
question.
called the questions? Now have to
it's
vote
been
on
seconded.
that.
oh, we're just calling for the question now?
So now
We
you
have
have
to
to
vote.
vote on that.
Okay,
On the
Stops
resolution.
discussion.
okay, so the
Questions,
just stop.
stop discussion.
Please.
And that's why it requires a 2/3 vote, because it does take away your right to discuss.
In other words, we're tired.
Okay, Deborah, I'm gonna hand it over to you.
Frazier,
Aye.
Hall,
Aye.
Hart,
Aye.
Noise,
Aye.
Bryce,
Aye.
Wells,
No,
Wright,
Aye. So
Now
now,
discussion's done, we have to vote on the motion.
now we vote on this.
Okay. Okay, do I hear a motion to appoint?
We already have,
You already have the motion.
it's already on the table. So now we just vote.
Oh, so we're voting, okay, now we're voting on the motion, okay. Okay,
So do you know what we're voting on, Deb?
We're voting on the original motion?
Yes, to appoint.
Yes, I said that with a question mark at the end, sorry.
It's kind of confusing, that's why I
I
asked.
saw that.
Thank you. Frazier,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Hart. Aye. Noise,
aye.
Rice,
Aye.
Wells,
No.
Wright,
Aye.
So now do we reread this again?
No.
No.
I don't motion passes.
Doesn't need to be
Motion
changed.
passes on the resolution, so.
Put, in there,
So
okay.
what we're saying is that Tom will be the interim superintendent, is that correct?
Mhm.
And then we will need to follow up with probably a special meeting in regards to contract and with HR and lawyer.
Yes.
So I'll be in touch with you, Deb, on that.
Okay.
Okay.
Just for your knowledge, Sherry, I'm leaving town Monday to take my mother to the cardiologist. I will be back Sunday for the board meeting. And then I have to turn right around and go back for another cardiology appointment. Okay, so I'm just giving you that information. So
Okay.
I can Zoom if I need to.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn this meeting at 7:39.